Alright, you probably include some of that in there.
This is Tales from Grandpa, recorded by Kevin, and I'm going to start this story about the time I was 12 years old. And my dad had a good year that year and bought a TV. And he fell in love with watching wrestling. And it came from South Carolina. And we had to go outside and set the antenna. And that was a story by itself. And a lot of people don't realize we can only get 3 channels. But the story goes that this guy named Hobe came and watched wrestling, and wrestling didn't start till 11 o'clock at night. And we always got to watch wrestling because my dad really liked it and Hobe really liked it, and they acted it out, and it was just fabulous. And one night it was just raining as hard as it could rain. And I remember my mom asking my dad, says, "You reckon Hobe's going to show up tonight?" Well, about 5 minutes to 11, there was a knock on the door. And Hobe was drenched. He had wet clothes on, and he had an old oilcloth.
It should still be on.
He had an old oilcloth wrapped around his clothes and was keeping his clothes dry that he carried with him. And he told my mom, have the kids not look out the window. And he went down naked, and he got him a towel out of his oilcloth sack. And believe it or not, he changed clothes on the front porch. And then when he came in, he said, "I bet y'all didn't know I'd show up tonight." And we kind of agreed with him. But the fun part was about at the end of the wrestling, Hobe asked my mom and dad to have the kids not look out, and he went out and took his wet clothes and put them back on. He went down naked on our front porch twice that night. And he put his dry clothes back in his oilcloth and went home. And we talked about that for all the time. That was one of the highlights of my mom and dad when we first got our television.
Okay, and what kind of wrestling was?
It was, there was Bruno Sammartino, the Great Apollo, and it was just Texas wrestling. It was called Texas wrestling, but it came from South Carolina, and it was recorded. I mean, it was live from South Carolina to here, but it was called Texas wrestling.
And what year around was this, and how old were you?
This was about 1952, about 1952, 53. And it was just a fabulous year because my dad, who was a coal miner, actually worked good that year, and there wasn't layoffs and all of that stuff, and he was able to make probably extra money because he worked overtime. And then we actually planted a garden and everything and every year, but that's another story, and it was just fabulous. It was unbelievable that my dad and Hope were great friends, and that wrestling just made them closer together.
Okay.